What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be giving you a quick guide into crafting in Last Epoch. The basics of crafting in Last Epoch are really simple. Items can only have 4 affixes, 2 prefixes, and 2 suffixes. And when a magic or rare item drops, these affixes can roll anywhere between tier 1 and tier 5. Tier 1 being the lowest roll and tier 5 being the highest. As you're playing the game, you will find these things called affix shards. These shards can be used to upgrade an item's affix to a higher tier, or add a completely new affix if the item has room for it. But every single time you use one of these shards, it adds instability to the item. The higher the instability on the item, the higher the risk that the item will fracture. As the risk gets higher, the damage done by a fracture can become more severe. A minor fracture locks the item, preventing you from being able to craft on it. A damaging fracture reduces all affixes by 1 to 5 tiers. If this lowers an affix below tier 1, then it just removes the affix altogether. A damaging fracture also locks an item from future crafts. And lastly, a destructive fracture removes all affixes, and also locks the item. To help mitigate the risk of instability, there are 2 different glyphs: the Glyph of the Guardian and the Glyph of Stability. When using a Glyph of Stability, it causes a modifier item to add 0 to 60% less instability than usual. And the Glyph of the Guardian reduces occurred fractures by 1 tier. And lastly, we have runes. There are 5 different runes to assist you in your crafting: the Rune of Cleansing, Rune of Refinement, Rune of Removal, Rune of Shattering, and the Rune of Shaping. The Rune of Cleansing removes all affixes from an item, and resets the item's instability anywhere between 5 to 15. I find these to be useful if I found a really good base for an item, but it has affixes that I don't like on it. The Rune of Refinement rerolls all affixes on an item within their tiers, and adds 2 instability to the item. The Rune of Removal removes a random affix on an item, and also adds 2 instability to it. The Rune of Shattering destroys an item and converts all the affixes into affix shards that you can use for crafting. The amount of shards you receive from this is random, but it can be as high as 1 shard for each tier of affix on an item. And lastly, the Rune of Shaping rerolls all implicits on an item, but adds instability. It's also more likely to result in a moderate roll, and that's pretty much it. So now I'm going to run you through a couple different examples of how you might go about crafting an item. Okay, so here you can see all of the shard affixes that we have. You can organize them by prefixes and suffixes by clicking the type button up here at the top. You can see with this rare amulet that I found, it already has 14 instability. Since the chance to ignite suffix is already at tier 4, my chance for success is only 66%. And you can see that my chance for a minor fracture is 25%, and my chance for a damaging fracture is 9%. But to help increase my chance for success, we can use a Glyph of the Guardian. As you can see, the Glyph of the Guardian has completely removed the chance of a damaging fracture. And it's also reduced the chance of a minor fracture to 9%, increasing our overall chance of success to 91%. Now let's take a look at the tier 2 fire resistance. Here we can see there is no risk of a damaging fracture, and our initial chance for success is higher than before. So using a Glyph of the Guardian increases the chance for success up to 100%. But it also adds 5 instability to the item. Since the chance for success is relatively high already at 76%, you can take a risk and try using the other glyph instead, the Glyph of Stability. Using the Glyph of Stability here has a chance of reducing the overall instability added to the item, making future crafts easier to pull off. Now say I didn't want this critical strike chance on the amulet. I could opt in for using a Rune of Removal, which has an 86% chance for success, and only adds 2 instability to the item. And again, I could increase this chance for success by adding a Glyph of the Guardian. I could also opt to use a Glyph of Stability here, but the amount of instability that you could potentially save probably isn't worth the risk. So we'll stick with the Glyph of the Guardian for now and give this a shot. And we didn't hit it. But that's okay. I could use another Rune of Removal if I wanted to try to remove the crit chance, and then just craft 2 more affixes on the item that I want. So I just upgraded the chance to ignite affix to T5, which is the highest that it can go through crafting. But as you can see, the roll could be higher. Right now it's at 31%. It could be 35% if I got lucky. So I'm going to use a Rune of Refinement, which re-rolls all affixes on an item within their tiers, but also adds instability. And we got 34%. I think I'm actually happy with that. As you can see, all items in the game have implicit modifiers. For this amulet, it's the 16% increased critical strike chance at the top underneath the name. If I hold down Alt and Control, I can see that the range of this can be anywhere between 5% and 35%. And seeing as how mine is only 16%, I would like to see if I could get a higher roll. This is where Runes of Shaping are useful. It re-rolls all the implicits on an item, but adds instability in the process. So we'll give it a shot and see what we get. And it rolled exactly 16% again. How unlucky. Now say you have an item that has perfectly rolled implicits, but for whatever reason through crafting, or you just found it this way, it has a higher instability than you would like. You can use a rune of cleansing here to remove all of the affixes from an item and reduce the instability from anywhere between 5 and 15. This way it gives you a fresh base to start with when crafting an item. We got pretty unlucky and got 14 instability on it still, but you can see just how powerful it could be if you were to get a lower roll of instability. And obviously when starting from a white item, you can pretty much create the item that you want from scratch. I'd say the biggest downside here is that when you do this, your instability might climb a lot higher, much quicker trying to get to T5 affixes. So in most cases, you're probably better off finding a rare item with some of the affixes on it that you're already looking for. And preferably those affixes would be of a high tier. This way you'd only have to focus on crafting 1 or 2 things onto the item to make it just right for your build. And lastly, we have the Rune of Shattering. The Rune of Shattering completely destroys an item and gives you a random number of affix shards containing the powers that that item had. I find these to be incredibly useful if I'm having trouble finding affix shards for a particular affix that I need for my build. So say I need more increased damage over time affix shards, I would set my item loot filter up to look for those items, pick them up, put them in the forge, and use the Rune of Shattering on them. Another useful thing that I like to do is whenever I'm done with an echo, I check the shop for Runes of Shattering. And as you can see here, she has 2, but sometimes she has more. And they're really cheap at only 2,000 gold. I find this to be a really easy way to keep yourself stocked up on these Runes of Shattering. And that's pretty much it, guys. I wanted to make this guide as simple and quick as possible. That way I'm not wasting your time and you can get to crafting ASAP. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. If you haven't already, make sure to check out my overview on Last Epoch. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe for more gaming related content.